if you're talking to someone, trying to get them into crypto, or, certainly trying to get a KKK member to leave the KKK, you're not just going to preach to them. You have to listen to them.
What's the number one secret to how to change minds with crypto? And by the way, just FYI for those who are listening to this is going to go in a couple different ways based upon what Bill just talked about a minute ago and based upon what he does. And maybe even, so talk about that and then blend also minds.com again and how it kind of connects.
Sure. So, at Minds, one of the pillars of our principles is free speech, free press, and really sticking to the First Amendment in terms of content policy. Obviously, we're seeing all kinds of financial channels getting banned on YouTube and Twitter. We're seeing all other types of cultural creators getting banned for just saying certain words. And this is just like completely unsustainable for global discourse. And so, we're trying to have hard conversations about all of, the hot topics that people are seeing, like the big trigger issues. It is possible to have these conversations and not get like super stressed out. We partnered with Daryl Davis, who some people may know. He's done some amazing TED Talks, and his life stories. He basically is a Black man who helped over 200 members of the KKK decide to leave. And he did this just by befriending them and talking to them. And so Daryl and I wrote a paper together with a number of PhDs called The Censorship Effect. Goes through decades of research and peer-reviewed studies on sort of how censorship can cause increased radicalization and polarization. And so when, whatever topic you want to talk about, whether you want to talk about Bitcoin, the economy, politics, like it doesn't matter the topic, but the strategy for for changing someone's mind about any topic is actually to sort of not try to change their mind. If you're talking to someone, trying to get them into crypto, or, certainly trying to get a KKK member to leave the KKK, you're not just going to preach to them. You have to listen to them. You have to make them feel like you're not. As soon as someone feels like they're trying to be convinced, you just want to walk away from the conversation. It's just a nightmare. So, there's a psychological reaction, this backfire effect that takes place when you try to do that. So you really need to approach from this place of compassion, being very, very open-minded, listening as much as possible. And then you try to start to get them to ask you questions. Because, you sort of tease them with the knowledge that you have about certain topics. And it's a very delicate process.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm getting it. And I love it. So the goal should not be to change someone's mind. The goal should be really listen and understand where the people are coming from, empathize where they're coming from, right? Because everyone has a story, no matter how off it might be, like with something as sensitive as race and the KKK and what a story. I'd love to hear that story of his journey to help other people to ultimately change minds, but more so change heart, right? I mean, I think it's more than just the logical evidence and the thought process there. So how does by listening and empathizing, what have you found the secret to changing people's hearts? How does that connect here?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first got out of college and went back home and was living with my parents for like a year. And this was like a decade ago, kind of when I was in the very early stages of thinking about starting Minds. And, I would just be ruthless with my dad. Like we would just argue. Like we were very much on not on the same page on a number of topics. And I was just pushing too hard. I was so opinionated about my various beliefs, and it just wasn't working. And so we just struggled for like a number of years. But then, over time, I stopped pushing so hard, and he has ton of experience with technology. So he started helping with the formation of Minds, and just over time, and now we're basically on the same page on so many issues, from crypto to, political stuff, whatever. We're just so much more in resonance. And it totally just has to do with the approach, changing my approach, not pressing as hard, him doing the same way. And I think that, this is just it's one of the most valuable lessons that I ever learned in sort of dialogue with anybody, in persuasion and, pitching, if you're pitching your company, it's the same tactic, which is actually like a non-tactic. It's like, actually don't try too hard, because that's the whole thirsty mentality.
Yeah, very well said, right? I read a book years ago called Crucial Conversations, and they talk about starting with heart, right? And the heart is get your own heart right, that you're doing whatever it is that you want, whatever the sensitive topic is, or whatever it is that you're interacting with somebody. Make sure you're coming from the right state of mind, right? And you're not making any certain assumptions, and you're not forcing or pressing your opinion onto somebody, right? You want to start with your heart, and you're in the right space, right? And then, yes, care and compassion and love, it's an approach of that. And yeah, you're right. If someone feels like they're persuading or pushing you so hard, that you're right, it's just the opposite effect. I remember growing up, and as guys, you learn to how to attract the opposite sex, and girls do too for the guys, right? And then there's something about this, the rhythm and pace of that, right? Where you're not pushing so hard. And we all have the friends who push really hard, or we learned at a young age not to push so hard because it's going to just do the opposite, right? So these are all intertwined with these things. And so I think that's so important. And then now we're in a society and a culture that intensifies these conversations. And it seems like our, time has been squeezed. And then you mix that on with all of these challenges that we're having, and it's like the perfect storm, Bill. So just talk about how crucial these types of skills or being aware of these things are right now, given what we're going through with so many challenging things.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're at peak polarization really right now. Everything is a team sport. People are just defending their tribe at all costs and trying to slam the other side. And so, yeah, I mean, we consider this so important. We've even started a live event series. We're holding one at the Beacon Theater in New York City on June 25th. For anyone interested, you can check that out at festival.minds.com. We have Daryl, we have Cornell West, we have Coleman Hughes, Tim Pool. We have some crypto people. We're going to be talking, but we're going to be talking about an array of different topics, and really just having people from the left and the right have human conversations. It's there's definitely something to be said for face-to-face communication compared to social media communication. And I think that people who are so willing to just be nasty online are, when you're looking at someone's eyes, it's harder to justify that type of behavior. So yeah, that's something that we're really focused on.
Amazing.